Chapter 482 8 skills 5 consecutively. Long Xiaoyao's expression changed slightly as he said hoarsely, "It's not as serious as you make it out to be. Do you think evil soul masters are born evil? You and a great many other soul masters are wrong on this matter. The truth is, almost every evil soul master deserves pity, and that's because the world shuns them due to their martial soul's characteristics. They have had to go through much pain and bitterness in their earlier days, and that's the reason why their personalities are a little extreme. I believe that if the Sun Moon Empire conquers the continent in the end and corrects the reputation of evil soul masters, everything will be different. They will control themselves, and as for who rules over the continent, that's not something that I'm concerned about." Huro Yuao laughed, and his laughter was very disdainful. "Yes, perhaps what you said does make some sense. There are many evil soul masters who deserved pity when they were younger. However, they start killing people because they have received unfair treatment, and they use all kinds of evil methods to strengthen themselves. How can that be the right thing to do? I may not know about others, but let's talk about the death god Douluo, Yu Shishui. I am willing to call her my senior because of my teacher, but it seems like she's the demon king among humanity. You are not allowed to talk about Yu Shishui." Long Xiaoyao's eyes suddenly grew focused, and Huro Yuao felt as if his body was held in place by some tremendous power. This frightening strength was pressing against his body, like he was about to be ground into dust. However, he gritted his teeth and held on as he said with difficulty, "Am I wrong? She's the death god Douluo, and she controls the death god pagoda. The reason why the death god pagoda is so powerful is because it incinerates people's spirits when it fires at full strength, while thousands of spirits are burned through every time it fires. I saw it with my own eyes, and from what it looked like, there were at least tens of thousands of spirits inside. That means tens of thousands of lives. How many evil soul masters are there? Every single one of them is alive. But does this mean those people that they so mercilessly slaughtered are not considered lives? Yu Shishui hasn't just been killing people. She has imprisoned their spirits, and she will ultimately incinerate their spirits for an attack, and eventually obliterate them. Are such brutal and cruel methods things you wish to see?" Long Xiaoyao fell silent after Huro Yuao's string of accusations. Of course, he knew that every single one of Huro Yuao's words was true. Long Xiaoyao heaved a faint sigh and shook his head. "I cannot turn back anymore. I am willing to do anything for Shishui, and the only thing I can do now is to restrain myself so that I can kill people. I'm not clear as to what the Holy Ghost Church has done, but I do know something. Shishui has told that after the continent is united, there will be a new order, and true peace will only happen when that time comes." Huro Yuao said nothing more. He knew that he could no longer move the Dragon Emperor Douluo. He stared coldly at him, but he was full of lament in his heart. But he still had some hope. He couldn't fight against the Dragon Emperor Douluo by himself. However, he still had the Beast God's reverse scale on his body. Huro Yuao had managed to escape with his life from the Death God Douluo's clutches with the reverse scale's protection. The Beast God would naturally appear if Long Xiaoyao attacked him, and he felt absolutely threatened. Furthermore, Huro Yuao now had his soul core, and the amount of energy his body could sustain was greatly boosted after he absorbed the manifold mysterious ice essence. Killing him wouldn't be that easy. Long Xiaoyao said plainly, "You're hoping for the Beast God's strength to protect you, eh?" Huro Yuao's eyes grew focused, but he said nothing. Long Xiaoyao smiled faintly when he saw Huro Yuao's silent consent. "Youngster, I am actually very interested in you. You're so young, yet you can reach such a cultivation rank. That is considered extremely prodigious. Shishui has long told me about your situation, and I definitely won't make the same mistake. In front of an ultimate Douluo, you can't defend yourself just because you have some protective abilities. Furthermore," Long Xiaoyao suddenly paused and turned around towards a rooftop by the side of the street. He grabbed with his right hand through the air and said, "You've been watching for a while now. Come out, lady." The quiet and dark world suddenly seemed to return to normal, and the sounds that Huro Yuao couldn't hear reappeared once more. "Ah!" A crisp exclamation rang out as a shadow was pulled from the sky by a formless strength, and this shadow fell not far behind Huro Yuao. Huro Yuao felt a little relieved as the pressure Long Xiaoyao had unleashed against him vanished completely. He glanced backwards subconsciously, and this time, he was truly astonished. Just as he couldn't sense Long Xiaoyao's presence, he also didn't sense this person's presence with spiritual detection. Huro Yuao's spiritual detection was powerful, but it still had a focus. For instance, Huro Yuao would only pay first attention to strong soul power undulations when he was using spiritual detection over a large area. He naturally wouldn't pay much attention to normal citizens who didn't have any soul power undulations, since these people didn't threaten him much anyway. If somebody deliberately suppressed their soul power in a group of people with the right method, Huro Yuao would have a hard time finding them. But if his opponent wanted to attack him, his opponent would have to channel soul power and come closer to him. There was only one reason why he didn't discover this person, and that was because this person was sufficiently familiar with him. This person knew about his spiritual detection, and this person had been hiding in the street beside the royal palace while concealing her soul power. She didn't make any moves at all. "You. Why are you here?" Huro Yuao's voice was actually trembling, in contrast to his calmness before. He wasn't afraid at all if he faced against the Dragon Emperor Douluo by himself. The worst that could happen was death, and he'd been at the borders of death countless times. But he could no longer keep his cool as he stared at this person in front of him, and that was because she looked identical to Donga. She was Tang Wutong. Tang Wutong didn't land on the ground stably, but she wasn't wretched enough to fall face first into the ground. The Darkness Holy Dragon was still merciful against girls. She stood up and stared calmly at Huro Yuao. "Why can't I be here?" The corner of Huro Yuao's mouth curved into a forced smile. There was nothing more to be said. They were facing the Darkness Holy Dragon. How could they just run away even if they wanted to? There was no more meaning to pursuing the reason behind why Tang Wutong was here. Long Xiaoyao smiled and said, "What a pretty little girl. She has been hiding by the side for a while, and she has considered attacking me more than once after I showed up. But she just couldn't find an opportunity. With her around, I trust your Beast God's powers won't be that effective. Let's find another place. This place is too noisy." Long Xiaoyao waved his hand as he spoke, and everything descended into silence and darkness once more. Huro Yuao and Tang Wutong immediately felt a terrifying soul power undulation rise up in the next moment. This wave of soul power poured out in all directions, with them at the center. That formidable soul power was filled with darkness, but it was impossible to fight against. The soul power swept them up as the space around them began to contort. Huro Yuao wanted to use spiritual detection to investigate what was going on, but his spiritual power couldn't leave his body at all. Is this an ultimate Douluo's power? Huro Yuao's cultivation was far from sufficient. However, he had encountered many top-tier individuals before, and his senses were extremely powerful. Huro Yuao could faintly feel that the Darkness Holy Dragon's cultivation was probably higher than Yu Shishui's. They were both ultimate Douluo, but the Darkness Holy Dragon's pure fighting strength was probably stronger. He wondered if his teacher was stronger than the Darkness Holy Dragon when he was in his prime. Tang Wutong subconsciously arrived beside Huro Yuao, and she grabbed his arm nervously. Huro Yuao turned back towards her as he channeled his soul power to protect them. Tang Wutong looked at him and asked, "Do you really want to know why I'm here?" Huro Yuao forced a laugh and said, "Do you really think that holds any meaning anymore? Why didn't you run when you saw the Darkness Holy Dragon? Why should I run?" Tang Wutong said plainly, "Furthermore, do you really think I can escape? His senses are different from your spiritual detection. You detect things as a whole, but his senses are very fine and delicate. When he appeared and discovered you while you were using imitation, he naturally discovered me as well. I couldn't escape even if I wanted to." Huro Yuao heaved a sigh and said, "Then why did you come?" Tang Wutong said, "Eldest senior brother was worried about you, and after Kirkai returned, he asked someone to go and bring you to go back as quickly as possible. He didn't want you to continue searching for Tanya, and I am the messenger. I heard Nan Kirkai's report about your travels, and I figured that you'd be looking for intel inside Heaven Do City, so here I am. I just heard about that tremendous explosion inside the royal palace, so I began to search for your tracks. See, I've only managed to find you now." Huro Yuao didn't know what to say. Could he say that Tang Wutong was unlucky? But for some reason, he felt very safe and secure when he saw her. The Darkness Holy Dragon seems like he has some way to block the Beast God's strength. Am I going to die with Tang Wutong here today? That's not so bad. At least, even though she isn't Donga, she looks exactly like her. Tang Wutong glanced at him and said, "What are you thinking about? Are you trying to escape?" Huro Yuao shook his head and said, "It's too difficult for us to run away in front of an ultimate Douluo. I can feel that the Darkness Holy Dragon is probably stronger than the Death God Douluo, whom we've encountered before. Why do you look like you're not worried at all?" Tang Wutong smiled, and her smile was just so beautiful. Her smile was just like Donga's smile, except she didn't have Donga's tenderness when she was looking at him. Instead, there was an extra tinge of courage. Why should I be worried? Will worrying ensure my safety? Since that's not going to happen, then there's no point in worrying. If we have to die, then we will die fighting. This isn't the first time that we fought side by side. Huro Yuao also laughed. Yes. Even if we die, we will die fighting. I'm very honored to experience this battle with you. At the very least, we are the rare few in the continent to have battled ultimate Douluo one after another. Tang Clan released his arm and patted him gently on his shoulder. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Who are you? Rolled his eyes and said, you? Protect me. More like I'll protect you. Just as they were talking, the dark air around them suddenly stabilized as their surroundings became clear once more, and sound returned, along with sight. However, Hua Yuao and Tang Clan were both momentarily stunned. They were no longer outside the Heavenly Soul Empire's royal palace. There wasn't a single trace of urbanization. They were clearly somewhere in the wilderness. What did that mean? It meant that the Darkness Holy Dragon had used his own strength to bring them both out of Heaven Do City into the wilderness. That was just unbelievable. This was an ultimate Douluo's power. Perhaps he didn't yet have the beast god's ability to pierce through space-time, but even then, to be able to bring them both to this place unwittingly within such a short period of time was far beyond Hua Yuao's understanding. The Dragon Emperor Douluo smiled as he watched their stern expressions. What's wrong? Are you afraid? Tang Clan grunted contemptuously. Afraid? What's there to be afraid of? You've just been alive for a few more years than we have. If we had lived in the same generation, you might be afraid of us. Yes. Long Xiaoyao laughed. You're right. If we were in the same generation, I may not have been able to defeat you. You were prodigies of your generation, but I was also a prodigy back then. Now that I think about it, I feel like 200 years is right before my eyes. A tinge of lament appeared in his eyes as he spoke. He nodded gently in Tang Clan and Hua Yuao's direction and said, come, the two of you can team up. Let me see what kind of fighting strength you prodigious youngsters can achieve. Don't think of escaping, because that's absolutely impossible. Fight with your full strength. Warriors who die on the battlefield die an honorable death. Hua Yuao and Tang Clan glanced at each other, and they each saw the other's determination. Hua Yuao took a slow step forward, and his eye of destiny gradually opened on his forehead. Tang Clan didn't fight with him but point position. Instead, she took a step back and stood behind him. Their martial souls were unleashed at almost the same time, and 7 soul rings swiftly rose into the air. Hua Yuao unleashed his spirit eyes. 7 soul rings that were completely out of the ordinary swiftly appeared, and the most eye-catching one was his blood-red soul ring, which appeared at the end. His spirit eye's 6th soul ring came from Wang Qia. The soul ring that she had given him was very special, and it was rose gold in color. It didn't share the same color as normal soul rings, but it shared a color with his eye of destiny instead. His 7th soul ring came from a 100,000-year evil eye tyrant, and it was also red. These 2 soul rings were the most glaring amongst his 7 soul rings. Hua Yuao began to release his formidable soul power, and his entire being seemed to faintly contort. He didn't move immediately, but was just standing there quietly as he stared at Long Xiaoyao. His 7 soul rings glowed one after another. Long Xiaoyao seemed surprised when he saw Hua Yuao's 7 soul rings. This was the first time that he had seen such a combination. However, the soul rings that he was looking at didn't include the 100,000-year soul ring at the end. Even though it was a 100,000-year soul ring, this arrangement was very normal. One of the 2 soul rings that attracted his attention was Hua Yuao's rose gold ring, his 6th one, which was filled with the power of destiny. The other one was his white soul ring, his first one, which looked like it was no different from a 10-year soul ring. How powerful was the Darkness Holy Dragon, the Dragon Emperor Douluo? This white ring looked like a 10-year soul ring in normal people's eyes, but that wasn't the case to him. He was very clear on what 10-year soul rings were like. They were white, but they radiated a drastically different aura. Even though the soul power in Hua Yuao's 10-year soul ring was completely contained, along with its aura, Hua Yuao's white soul ring had a smoothness that 10-year soul rings didn't have. Faint golden patterns could be seen on its surface, and that was absolutely something that 10-year soul rings couldn't achieve. There's something wrong with this kid's soul rings. Long Xiaoyao thought to himself. Hua Yuao wasn't hasty to make his move at all. He was just standing there like a statue. Very smart. Long Xiaoyao praised Hua Yuao in his mind. This kid knows that I, with my status, will never take the initiative to attack him without him making a move first. He wants to raise his aura and his abilities to their highest possible level before attacking me. But would that really be effective? Hua Yuao's eye of destiny gradually opened on his forehead. Rose gold sun patterns of the stretched in all directions with his eye of destiny in the middle. His eyes slowly closed, like he was using his eye of destiny to view the world. The light in his eye of destiny was crystal clear. Even Long Xiaoyao felt like his eye of destiny possessed a strange gravitational force when he took but one look, as if this eye was going to consume his soul. Rose gold patterns glowed as dense spiritual undulations strengthened at an incredible speed. Long Xiaoyao wasn't particularly concerned in the beginning, but an astonished expression quickly began to show on his elderly face. Such formidable spiritual power. Furthermore, his spiritual power is so pure and condensed. Even the Holy Ghost Church's evil soul masters, who use special methods to cultivate their spiritual power, can only reach such a level of spiritual power when they become soul Douluo. How is this young man doing this? Hua Yuao's spiritual power continued to strengthen, and to Long Xiaoyao's surprise, his spiritual power wasn't just changing quantitatively, it was also changing qualitatively. Long Xiaoyao wasn't the only one who was astonished. Tang Clan, who was standing behind him, was equally surprised. She had known Hua Yuao for quite some time, and they had fought side by side before. Back in the Mingdo mountain range, the two of them went deep into enemy lines together, but because of the death god Douluo's appearance, she didn't see Hua Yuao's battle with Yi Shishui. Tang Clan knew that Hua Yuao was very strong, but she had always believed that her overall strength wasn't inferior to his. However, she was now starting to doubt that opinion. Hua Yuao's continuously rising spiritual undulations were far stronger than what his cultivation rank could normally achieve. Condensed soul power gradually transformed into circles of rose gold light. This light was very viscous, while Hua Yuao's body became a little blurry amid all those contorting lights. Hua Yuao's body gradually floated into the sky as his 7th blood red soul ring flickered. Rose gold patterns appeared behind his back, forming an image of the 3-eyed golden lion. Everything within several hundred meters of him, which included the light around Long Xiaoyao, was tainted with the same colors. Long Xiaoyao sighed in amazement. Is his spiritual power close to that of a tidal Douluo's level? No, that's not right. His spiritual power is similar in strength to a tidal Douluo, but it is more condensed and is on another level. All of a sudden, blinding rose gold patterns radiated all around Hua Yuao, and his body seemed to vanish entirely within them. A vertical eye that seemed material suddenly appeared in midair, and the intense spiritual power undulations rose to their highest possible level. Materialization of spiritual power. Long Xiaoyao's eyes grew focused. The Hua Yuao who was still sitting in a restaurant outside the royal palace suddenly dissipated as it disappeared into countless rose gold light patterns that swiftly flew out of the city. Hua Yuao had left that spiritual avatar as his contingency plan, so that he could substitute it for his original body as he was running away to draw the soldiers chasing him away. However, this spiritual avatar lost its meaning when the Dragon Emperor Douluo appeared. As Hua Yuao unleashed his spiritual power with his full strength, that thread of his spiritual power was immediately recalled by the eye of the Asura. Radiant golden light transformed into an enormous pillar of light as it surged into the sky. The rose gold vertical eye was just hovering there, and a strange whirlpool spun rapidly within the coldness of the vertical eye's pupil. All of the space that was covered by its rose gold light began to contort in this moment. For the first time, a truly astonished look appeared on the Dragon Emperor Douluo's face. He had originally believed that he was already holding Hua Yuao in high regard, but it seemed like his judgment was far from sufficient. The spiritual power that this youth displayed far surpassed that of normal tidal Douluo, and with Long Xiaoyao's 200 years of experience, he could be entirely sure that even transcendent Douluo would have a hard time reaching Hua Yuao's level of spiritual power. Materializing spiritual power wasn't something that happened with improving one's soul power or cultivation rank. This was an attribute that formidable spiritual type soul masters could achieve. Furthermore, Long Xiaoyao could feel a soul core within his materialized martial soul true body. This was the core of why he was so astonished. Hua Yuao was a young soul sage, and yet he already possessed a soul core. It was also a soul core for a spiritual type martial soul. Brother Mu, oh brother Mu, what kind of disciple have you taken in? The judgment of destiny. Hua Yuao's ice gold voice echoed through the twisting space, and a golden skull appeared soundlessly above Long Xiaoyao's head. The skull was shattered in the next moment as it transformed into countless motes of flowing light that flowed into Long Xiaoyao's body. Even an ultimate Douluo like Long Xiaoyao couldn't resist the power of destiny. The darkness around him rippled vigorously, but couldn't dispel the golden light, and he could only allow them into his body. Yes, this was the eye of destiny's ability to unleash the judgment of destiny. It couldn't decide the outcome of a battle, but it could change one's destiny. Long Xiaoyao chuckled as he muttered under his breath. I haven't been this surprised in a long time. Interesting, very interesting. 2 beams of light blasted from the enormous vertical eye, one black and the other white, as they circled around each other and went straight for Long Xiaoyao. Hey, what's this? Long Xiaoyao was still standing there, motionless, and he grinned as he allowed those two beams of light to land on his body. There weren't any soul power undulations, nor were there spiritual undulations. The black and white beams didn't seem to do anything at all. However, Long Xiaoyao's expression changed a little when they actually landed on him, and an inexplicable sense of danger immediately appeared in his mind. I can feel danger? Spiritual shock. A voice with a strange tone rang out, and every syllable uttered made the enormous vertical eye a little brighter. One could see that all the rose gold light that the vertical eye was radiating had turned blood red in this moment. A pillar of light that was the same size as the vertical eye blasted out in the next moment and went right for Long Xiaoyao. Long Xiaoyao snorted as his body, which was originally submerged within all the rose gold colors, suddenly turned black as a dragon roar that seemed to come from ancient ages could be heard. An enormous black dragon head appeared in front of him as it howled deeply at all the rose gold light around him. Spiritual power against spiritual power. This was the arrogance that belonged to an ultimate Douluo. Even though Long Xiaoyao wasn't a spiritual type soul master, his mastery of spiritual power had already reached the limits of terrifying because he was an ultimate Douluo. However, something that astonished the dragon emperor Douluo once more happened. The rose gold pillar of light that seemed unstoppable as it zipped through the air suddenly paused. Yes, it paused, and a shadow suddenly appeared in front of it. It was Huo Yuao, who was back in human form. A rose gold wheel of light glowed behind his head. There were patterns of a three-eyed golden line within this wheel. Huo Yuao's body slammed almost directly into the giant black dragon head, and he was immediately consumed by the darkness. Everything happened too suddenly, and Long Xiaoyao was momentarily stunned. Afterwards, he looked on in surprise as the black dragon head that he had conjured with his spiritual power dissipated just like that. The figure was still hovering in midair, and the rose gold pillar that was reactivated enveloped that shadow before it wrapped around him and slammed brutally into Long Xiaoyao's body. The rose gold pillar's origin, the vertical eye, disappeared in that moment, and a large black door filled with eerie and sinister auras took its place. Huo Yuao's face was very pale as he stood at the gate's entrance. He was holding Tang Wutong with one of his hands, and her radiant dragon butterfly's wings were outstretched. Let's go. Huo Yuao dashed into the door as he pulled Tang Wutong along. There would only be one outcome battling an ultimate Douluo, and that was death and defeat. Therefore, Huo Yuao had never considered fighting against the Dragon Emperor Douluo from the beginning. What he needed was an opportunity. Destiny's judgment from the eye of the Asura was the first step to creating this chance. Bad luck appearing on his opponent was equivalent to good luck standing on his side. Black and white lights crossed. Those were the three-eyed golden lions, two powerful soul skills conferred by his sixth soul ring, spiritual dispossession and Destiny's demise. They instantly lowered his opponent's defense against both material and spiritual attacks. Even Huo Yuao didn't know what kind of effect these two powerful soul skills could achieve against an ultimate Douluo. What came next was his most powerful spiritual attack, the eye of the Asura's spiritual shock. The rose gold colors almost became blood red when he was using his full strength. Huo Yuao could only get closer to an ultimate Douluo with spiritual attacks. He had actually paid an enormous price for that momentary pause in the middle, and cracks even appeared in his spiritual sea in that moment because of it. But it was that momentary pause that allowed him to dispel the eye of the Asura and use instant teleportation to appear in front of his own spiritual shock. What he leveraged was the Dragon Emperor Douluo's arrogance, and he was betting that the Dragon Emperor Douluo would use spiritual power to fight against his own spiritual shock. He was successful in his wager. He used his body to take a hit from the Dragon Emperor Douluo's attack, and he used his soul skill that came from the three-eyed golden lion's soul, Destiny's adjudication. That soul skill allowed him to become immune to spiritual attacks thrice a day. Huo Yuao managed to escape from the evil eye tyrant king's assault back then because of this soul skill. His chances were boosted once more. The black door appeared because Huo Yuao was already making his incantations when he became the eye of the Asura. He relied on his spiritual soul core to do two things at the same time, and his body sustained an enormous burden as he completed the summoning of his spectral demiplane. What Huo Yuao needed was the last step in creating this opportunity. He made another bet that his strongest form of spiritual shock could cause the Dragon Emperor Douluo to be momentarily stunned after taking a hit from spiritual dispossession. If every chance came through in the end, then he had a chance to take Tang Wutong into the spectral demiplane and escape from this place. The eye of the Asura, Destiny's judgment, spiritual dispossession, Destiny's demise, spiritual shock, instant teleportation, Destiny's adjudication, and the opening of his spectral demiplane. Huo Yuao used 8 soul skills one after another within such a short period of time, and he did all that so he could create a chance for him and Tang Wutong to run away. Did he succeed? Darkness was starting to descend upon them as Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong's bodies were about to disappear into that large door which connected them to the spectral demiplane. Everything in this world seemed to freeze amid the darkness. An elderly voice suddenly resonated through the air, which was already frozen and swallowed by darkness. Almost. You really almost succeeded. A gigantic black dragon claw flickered with dark purple light as it slashed out across this dark space. Right at the black door that Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong had just escaped into, the large black door immediately broke apart as two bodies that were about to disappear suddenly became clear once more. They were forcibly pulled from the darkness surrounding them. The silent darkness vanished as Huo Yuao and Tang Wutong collapsed onto the ground almost at the same time. Tang Wutong's eyes were full of fear as she helped Huo Yuao back on his feet, who was faltering and about to fall back to the ground. Her expression became increasingly solemn. The darkness holy dragon, the Dragon Emperor Douluo reappeared within their vision amid the darkness, but he was no longer smiling. His eyes were concentrated on Huo Yuao's body, and there were unexplainable emotions rippling through his eyes. Now, I must admit that you are much more talented and accomplished than I was when I was younger. Long Xiaoyao spoke sincerely. With your current spiritual power, and the fact that you already possess a soul core for your spiritual type martial soul before your 8th soul ring, you will have a chance to challenge me when you become a transcendent Douluo in the future. If, one day, you can become an ultimate Douluo, then you will be on the same level as the Beast God and the Evil Emperor. If not for my silent darkness domain, you would have successfully escaped, and this episode would have probably become the greatest joke of my later days. Huo Yuao struggled from Tang Wutong's support. He wiped away the blood that was coming from his nose as he said coldly, "We weren't able to escape in the end, were we?" His nose was bleeding not because the darkness holy dragon had hurt him. Instead, that was because he had paid a huge price to unleash 8 powerful soul skills with his full strength one after another. Every single soul skill was unleashed at its greatest possible level, and even his spiritual sea began to crack. His head was exploding with pain, and it was impossible for him to use spiritual attacks like he did before. But we haven't lost. We will never lose in any moment before we die. Tang Wutong took a step forward from behind Huo Yuao and stood in front of him. Huo Yuao was momentarily stunned. Tang Wutong snapped her head around and glanced at him. "Why aren't you willing to trust me? If we had combined our abilities back then, we might have succeeded. You have too much machismo." Huo Yuao felt a little dazed in that instant as he saw her displeased expression. A thought suddenly surfaced in his mind. If only she had been Donga. If I had teamed up with Donga, our plan would have succeeded. Now, it's my turn. Tang Wutong grunted coldly as she raced forward like a gust of wind. She was pretty, and she was aloof, and she seemed like the goddess of light that lit up the darkness around them in this moment. She had the determination of a moth bouncing towards fire, and an unwavering resolution. Her pinkish blue hair swayed in the air like waves as she continued charging forward. Crisp dragon roars could be heard as brilliant golden flames blazed behind her. A smile appeared on Long Xiaoyao's face once more as he stared at the determination and arrogance on Tang Wutong's face. He gradually raised his right hand. Right in this moment, Tang Wutong's body suddenly paused in midair as all 7 of her soul rings shone. Her soul rings were also different from normal soul masters. Black, 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 red. She had 6 black rings and 1 red ring, 6 10,000-year soul rings and a single 100,000-year soul ring. This meant she had potential and talent that wasn't inferior to Huo Yuao at all. One reason why Bei Bei went to look for Tang Wutong and asked her to ask Huo Yuao to return, besides the fact that she looked just like Donga, was because Bei Bei hoped that she could let Huo Yuao slowly walk out from his thoughts and memories of Donga. But there was yet another more important reason, and that was because she was sufficiently powerful. She had 7 powerful soul rings that made her much more powerful than a typical soul sage. Her 7 soul rings flickered as the radiance from her body flourished. The light pattern of a trident appeared on her forehead, and a tinge of blue immediately covered her otherwise golden frame. Tang Wutong raised her head a little amid the bluish gold colors. She allowed her flowing long hair to drift and sway in the wind, and a bright dragon roar rang out from her mouth. This dragon roar was crisp and bright, and along with the intense bluish golden light, an enormous dragon-shaped shadow gradually appeared with her body in the middle. That was a colossal dragon which was flickering with the colors of the rainbow. The dragon seemed very illusory, but there was a dignity and majesty within the illusion that seemed like it could dominate the ages. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.